Hello, my name is Marcus. I'm the compiler of a collection of therapy quotes entitled 1001 Windmills of the Mind, now celebrating its 5th year anniversary. A collection of advanced self-help quotes, now well over 10,000, taken from what's often called the psychodynamic or the psychoanalytic perspective, which long ago, as I understand, was referred to by some as philosophical medicine or narrative medicine, helping us to narrativize, put into story form, formulate, piece together, put into words something that's pre-verbal, and there's trauma there. To get out of the trauma, we need to verbalize it, symbolize and make a story called narrativization. That's what this is all about. How do we narrativize fragments, traumas and fragments? It's, the memories there in the emotional area, yes, and the thoughts. It's called the unthought known. It's known. So how do we sort this out? So we have to look at repetition compulsion. It's one key theory, repetition compulsion. Paul Levi-Russell, the author we're currently discussing, says, think of them as synonymous. That the injury of relational trauma, interpersonal trauma, developmental trauma, attachments, trauma, strain trauma, which can blend in with any kind of perinatal trauma, prenatal trauma, birth traumas. Those kind of traumas, the baby's meant to develop, and his feelings develop with his development. There's an emotional development with his identity development. So his identity and his emotions are damaged. A wound. Okay, from the wound, maybe like to say, think of it like how do we describe the wound? Well, go to a physical area. If there's a wound, there's a scar. Well, there's an emotional scar, and this emotional scar is represented in the repetition compulsion. So the system seeks to get a better outcome, get the love that we should have received. But that's the idea. That's the strange mechanism in nature that the baby's wounded, he's in pain, doesn't want to be in pain, he wants a better outcome so he can resume develop, have his identity and have his feelings with it, called the golden ball, a wide range of feelings, needed feelings, and so on. Paul Levi-Russell kind of makes a link between repetition compulsion and how affect, meaning feelings, there's a kind of development in your feelings. For example, if you're traumatized really early on, you're kind of operating from the stress response of the limbic system, fear and anger, shame, like that. It's just survival kind of stress response, quote-unquote feelings or affects. But really the feelings are meant to develop to what Melanie Klein calls the both and, or no, she calls it the presupposition, which is like the both and. So this is a broader range of feelings. So joy is there, and interest and curiosity about expressing yourself. So empathy is there, morality is there, virtue is there. Okay, the quote-unquote more human side of being human is there. So you feel embodied, real, alive, called embodiment, soulment. There's a different feelings there. So joy runs the console, and there's a lot of ability to make I statements, intimacy, sharing, Freud and Freude, two people grow together, they have pleasure in seeing each other's development grow together. So there's relationships. Two people are people to people relating. So there's a wider range of feelings in that later developmental kind of place. But in the earlier place, it's kind of like survival. So yesterday I was talking about the Disney film. If joy and sadness run the console, or joy and interest run the console, that's a little further along. That's related to your beingness. But if the beingness is frozen due to trauma, then you're operating at a stress response, fear, anger, shame, and so on. Ennui and all the other ones. Shame, so on. So that's one part of this idea that the emotions progress and develop. Okay? So either the survival stuff or the living stuff, put it that way, or the paranoid schizoid position based on either or, denial, projection, and you got a scapegoating and you don't know, you're blaming because the anger that takes place with trauma, in the imaginal world, the baby wanted love, but the love tension there was tension with the rejection by the mother. That love plus the tension turned to anger, but the mother rejected the baby's anger, turned in. So the baby's own anger, which is really a cry for love, an SOS for love, a need for love, wanting a connection, and then when it blocks, it turns in. As the child's anger turns in the imaginal world, poof, there's a monster. And that's the child's attempt to hold himself, to contain himself. His mother didn't contain him, mother didn't hold him. So he's holding himself with his own anger like that. That's kind of sad because that's going to lead to symptoms. Now the symptoms are kind of like holding him. But the symptoms is part of it. Part B of it is like in the Howling Man in the Twilight Zone episode, he's got to blow off steam and find others to play the mother to express his anger at, kind of thing. That's so your prejudice and scapegoating is going to come from. So scapegoating and prejudice is part of that earlier phenomena. We haven't played this song in a long time. Eh? My goodness, Lynn Miles, yeah, we have 3 songs by this folk singer on our soundtrack. This is one of them. I've been playing Jim Croce recently. Just rediscovered the singer Jim Croce. We played a song called Age recently. Another one called something about the footprints or something. No, one less set of footprints. Is that or something like that? And of course the famous Operator song. I don't have the time in the bottle one. A little too down, a little bit too sappy for me. We now have 3 songs by Jim Croce on our soundtrack. Okay, enough about the songs. Let's go back to the opening premise here. So opening premise is, in our identity I feel therefore am. So our identity is linked with our feelings. Okay? I feel therefore am. So when you have your authentic self-identity, there's going to be feelings related to it. Using Hollinger's model, it's mainly interest, curiosity like that, wonderment, and then the enjoyment and joy and delight and all that. So there's those 2 like that. In the Disney film, they use sadness and joy. He uses interest and joy, but they're both connected to your the seeds to your authentic self place, and you want that to develop. You want your curiosity to develop. You want the blue jay to be there. The blue jay means your needs are met. So if you're curious and your needs are met, you feel happy like that. And so you feel safe, you feel happy. When your needs are met, you feel good, and that supports your budding beauty and the sense of feeling real and love in the body staying with you. So it's called a emerging self, a budding beauty. It stays with you. That's your feeling self. But if trauma, that's all frozen. Okay, frozen. Echo turns to a statue. You feel like the Velveteen Rabbit. You don't feel real alive. Pin goes in the collar. You feel flat affect. Again, the jargon flat affect. Long ago, athemolexia, no feelings for your words. Nowadays, alexithymia, no words for your feelings. Okay, where are we? Okay, so the feeling self is like that, right? But the feeling self, if the child feels safe, he can maintain his feeling self, and he grows up with the feeling self. Now, with the feeling self, there's a natural connection to your embodiment. That means you have a wide range of feelings of self-reflection, self-understanding, understand others. If you feel with yourself, you have empathy. You can feel for others. You have empathy for others. Right? So you have compassion for yourself. You can have compassion for others like that. That's the normal state of affairs, right? One of the main capacities as well is you maintain your curiosity. So if you're confused, well, you wonder about it. You recognize reality. We're all the same family, Earth family, human family. We all came from the same hominid, one hominid. Only one hominid grew the cortex. That was us, Homo sapien. There's only one hominid here, Homo sapien. That's us. We came from a previous version of us called Homo bodoensis. Only one hominid grew the cortex. That was us. And then the story was you spread around. Okay, and then melanin, lifestyle, little slight trivial biological variations, skin tone, things like that. But we're still the same hominid like that. And that was 200,000 years ago, according to the film Forbidden Planet. They used that one. But roughly 10,000 years ago, we mismanaged our discoveries, and some accident took place. We were overwhelmed with our discoveries. We couldn't manage ourselves. So in the panic, we got our chemistry was kind of changed or something. So we entered into pillage mode, and so we went from village to pillage, tolerant to prejudice. So we traumatized ourselves in order to pillage, and the pillaging traumatizes people, and traumatized people pillage, which creates more trauma. And we've been in this cycle called global pillage for the past 5 to 10,000 years, depending on which source. Star Trek says 6,000 years. Others say 8. Typically, people say 10,000 years ago. So that's a whole topic like that. Let's not enter that topic. That's a 10-hour. If we open that door, it's going to take 10 hours to go down the line. Okay, so back up a sec. So the opening premise is we have a feeling self, but that's frozen. Okay, so symbolized as Snow White in a coma, Rapunzel in the tower. Okay, now the feeling self is sometimes called the feminine. So the feminine would be the princess. The princess means soul, in other words. In fairy tales, princess means somebody's soul. Okay, your embodiment, your ensoulment, feeling real alive in the body, the hum in the body, feeling alive in the body, called enchantment in the body. This enchantment in the body, this, so they would say a princess or something. Okay, but if the princess is exiled, Earth opens up Miss Core, Princess Core, the heart of the person, the core of the person, the soul of the person. Okay, she gets pulled down as a chasm. So the chasm is also a gap. Okay, on the earth, a gap like that. So the gap means there's a difference between what the baby needed and what he got. There's a gap. So that's symbolized by the crack on the earth and the Miss Core getting pulled down. So now there's a swoon, there's a chasm, there's a pain. It makes people very sarcasm, like they say in the film. But Dickinson says, well, there's a pain so utter, swallow something, the brain puts you in a swoon. So now you're kind of in a bit of a swoon like that. You're in a bit of a trance. So now anyways, now what? You're meant to live and love and have your beingness and have your creativity and pleasure and all the tenderness and affection. And your body and sexuality are together, so united like that. There's a pleasant, you feel, you enjoy the presence, the reality of the present. But if that's all missing, okay, you see, then you're kind of like stressed back. You're going back to the back part of the brain, the original survival system, which is mainly fear and anger, right? So that's the whole survival jungle mentality. It's not supposed to be like that. And then from that place, you feel disembodied. Wilson's line is disembodied discourse that causes all these problems. If you're not in your body, you're not making sense anymore. Literally, and it's disembodied discourse that causes problems. Windmills' line is the wounded feminine leads to the distorted masculine. Okay, because your doing is meant to come from the feeling. Made in king, made in princess, king, masculine, doing. So king, masculine means doing, code for doing, activity, but it comes from the being, the presence, the stillness, the moon, the feminine, the yin. So from the yin, you got the yang. So you want your yang from the yin. So meaning your doing comes from the being. Okay, if you have your being, your feeling self from your heart, like your soul, like your core, then your doing is ethical, immoral, and virtuous, normal state of affairs. But if that's all damaged, what are you doing? You're doing from the loop of the trauma. So your doing is going to be symbolic acting out of repeating the trauma in the present, hoping for a better past. Does it make sense? Okay, now part of the strategy of what the baby does in the doing is he can't know that his anger is holding him. That's pain. He makes the pain pleasure. He can't know that. So he's got to be pseudo-aggressive, rescue station, cloak it with oral fixations. Now we've got the whole long list of oral fixations, another 10-hour video. Smoking, drinking, someone down the line. Promiscuity, any kind of okay, that's a topic about oral fixation, oral regression. So the rigmarole is whatever the symbolic acting out is. The fixation is the baby has to hold himself. The baby has to turn to his own anger to hold him because mother never hold him. But in the process of doing so, he had to make like a sugar coating of the pain and make the pain pleasure. And so Berger's phrase is psychic masochism. The liberalization of psychic guilt, pain like that. Okay, so so this is another 10-hour video. So nobody knows exactly how the mechanism works, but remember the baby's got to be held, right? The baby needs a mother. No mother hurt him, so how is he going to hold himself? His anger's going to hold himself, but the anger's a monster attacking him. So he's dependent on his own anger, which is a monster image in his mind holding him, but it's hurting him, but it's holding him. So the trick is he's got to sugarcoat it and believe it's pleasurable. So that's the mystery. And to be unaware of this quote-unquote major crime, he makes himself active. He makes himself some kind of neurotic, dysfunctional behavior to cloak and make it unavailable. And the third level is rationalization. So enter the cortex gives you flim-flammery, duplicity, excuses to make you unaware of it all. So it's a kind of bit of a system like that. So the baby comes up, baby figured out a way to survive a traumatizing mother. A mother who didn't meet his needs. If the mother doesn't meet the baby's needs, we get it. Baby thinks he'll be a goner. He's going to perish. He's in peril. That's why the baby's in rage. Rage is an SOS for love. And mother rejects the baby's rage. That's quadruple insults. Didn't meet the baby's needs. Baby communicated. Mother ignored it. Baby tried again. Mother ignored it. Tried again. Mother ignored it. Finally, poof. Okay, the anger flames. So the Inside Out, the character from the Inside Out film called Anger, the flames pop up. It's SOS. And the mother squat and said, well, what are you angry at me for, baby? Don't blame me. And then it turns in. Now he's turning his rage at himself in a way. That'll lead symptoms. Now, when he gets a symptom, later on in life, when you get a symptom, that pain in your body, that's holding you. That's like your mother holding you. Can you believe it? So that's wild stuff, right? That the system is trying to figure out a way to survive. So humans are very kind of, it's called psychic defenses, defense mechanisms, maneuvers of the mind, operations of the mind, mechanism of the mind to deal with the pain with the mother. Now, why is the mother so misattuned? Why is she so, okay, that's open that door, another 10-hour video. Reason I'm talking quickly, I got a very late start here. It's already 5 o'clock. This will be a shorter video here. So it's too bad. I'd like to cover more ground here. I had quite a day on my hand here. So but I really want to get these quotes out. So a little bit of an update on Paula B. Russell. So up to this point, the past three videos I've been mainly talking about the work of Paula B. Russell. So he was a medical doctor in the Boston area during the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And I just found out this morning he passed away in 96 or something. And just before he passed away, he published an article in a book but there was somebody compiled people's articles in a book called Therapeutic Action, something like that. And he's got an article in there. So the last thing he wrote, it seems, might have been that one there. So I just found it this morning, so I quickly plucked out some quotes from his final article. So I've already done 6 videos. Or 6 parts in the past 3 videos in preview mode of his work. So now in this video, I want to do a quick, I'll probably end up redoing it, but I want to do a quick preview of parts 7 and 8. So in this video, stay tuned. We'll be doing parts 7 and 8 on the work of Paula B. Russell. So I highly recommend going to page on the channel here, 31 to 8. I recommend immensely those reading the quotes in those 8 pages. In the description box, you'll get those quotes. I think I plucked out the highlights of this material. He has no book, only those articles, those 8 articles. So we're doing 8 videos for his 8 articles, basically, roughly. And a lot of people praise him. There's a lot of, I noticed this morning, the people he helped, some of them were authors, and they dedicated their books to him. That advertising book I mentioned yesterday, the woman who does all these the tricks by the advertising people. Example was, have you ever had a relationship this comfortable? Have you ever had such a comfortable relationship like this? It was a shoe ad or something. So you appeal to people's needs for power and comfort and love and status and even rebellion and something like that. So you associate products with your emotional issues. So you should cover that topic. I didn't notice this, but she said in the book later on, I'm dedicating this book to Paula B. Russell. He saved my soul, he said. She said that he saved her soul. And I saw another lady write a book about work-life balance or something, dedicated to Paula B. Russell. So it seemed like I've never seen anybody really dedicate books to the shrink like that. So he must have been quite a unique guy. It's a pity he wrote no books. And what's interesting about him? He engages you. He's very lively and engaging, and and that's one of his focuses on the therapy post. He's very relational in the therapy. It's all about how can he be engaged and use his own awareness to pick up what the other person is trying to feel but can't feel, but coaxes him to feel. Can he hold it? Can he hold it and communicate it back and do that kind of negotiation like that? So that's a big topic. So Paula B. Russell talks about 3 things as I've discovered: repetition compulsion, the BPD phenomena, and affect. Those 3. So he covered 3 topics. He discusses 3 topics in those 8 articles. So in these 8 articles, and now we'll be doing 7 and 8, he covers those 3. And it's kind of mixed around a little bit like that. So keep that in mind. So, for example, all those negative personality patterns, it's all due to a failure of containment. Mother never held him. So the negative personality is holding himself, like that. Symptoms, negative personality, prejudice, and so on. That all reflects mother never held him. Lack of containment, lack of holding, lack of soothing and sweetness by the mother. So the baby copes in these kind of ways. Okay. I'm tempted. Yeah, no, I don't got the time. Okay, that's too bad because Okay, in the BPD one of the points was there was a chaos. So BPD has a fear of connection, fear of relationship, fear of emotions. There's all a chaos like that. So they don't know that. So with other people, that's their relationship, the chaos and sabotage you. So that's the only way they can relate, by repeating what happened to them. So in the BPD one, for example, there wasn't an attachment. It was all chaotic. They flip-flop and double think, who's who, identity diffusion, is it me, is it you, those kind of things. So in the current relationship, that's the crazy making kind of thing. And that's, they're just communicating what happened in the past. So the shrink would say, oh, that's what your childhood must have been like, what they're creating now. So we recreate as a communication. So he talked a bit about that one there, it specifies that. I did it, it's funny, I did it yesterday. I'm tempted to, let's see if I can just highlight a few. Okay, let's check the time here. Son of a gun. I had a real delay today. Let's see, what is it? 4:30. Okay, let's play it safe. Let me run through parts 7 and 8 here, and if I've got time, I'll backtrack and pick up on some of the main points here, because yeah, my mind is I've got too many thoughts running on right now. Hold on a sec. Let's do this then. Okay, let's preview 31, 37, and 8 here. Okay, and this is mainly on affect, the issue of affect. Okay. So, repetition compulsion is about trying to get our identity, but our identity is connected with affect, so it's the same kind of thing. So we repeat. That's the mechanism. There's something makes us repeat. Now, it's not learning, by the way. It's not like you can have 20 lifetimes. Okay, so when we say repeat, we mean if mother disappointed you, you search for symbols of mother and get disappointed again. Now, sometimes when it's very painful, you imitate the mother and disappoint others. So do to others what your mother did to you, called identification with the aggressor. And then flip-flop. Okay, if mother hurt you and you become her, and she hurt you and you become her, she hurts you, then you play her, then you find someone to stand up for you, because your wounded soul you want to project onto others, and others playing you, and you're the mother who hurt you, they're you, and you're her, she hurt you, and they're you. So since they're you and you're her and she hurt you, you hurt them, who's you. And then after you hurt someone who plays you, okay, due to the fusion identity flip-flopping, the one who plays you, poof, there's your mother, and your anger at the mother you direct on the one you just shamed who played you. You see, because of the fusion. That's the more disturbed stuff, called the distingers, like that, the paranoid schizoid mode, where if the pain is too much, the baby just can't be passive. He's got to have some identity. So and due to attachment, he's got to have a mother. So he becomes the mother. But in order to become the mother, he's got to shame himself, reject himself. To have an attachment, he's got to shame himself. It's called selling a soul, right? The famous Faustian deal. He sells his soul. So how does he deal with that phenomena? If he's going to sell his soul, he can't know him. So he's got to find someone else to play his innocence, to play his vulnerability, to kindness, his deep, budding beauty. Anybody who shows any kind of something from the feeling self, okay, of course he'll say he's got to devalue it the way the mother devalued him. So it is devalued in himself, but to make him unaware, he distracts himself by scapegoating, blaming like that. That keeps him unaware that he's shaming himself. So he's doing both. He's shaming himself and he's shaming others to make him unaware that he's shaming himself. And that's all to please the mother, have a connection to the mother. And he's kind of tied like that. The more benign was in repetition compulsion, you kind of play yourself and just coax and expect and prod and misuse situations to make others disappoint you the way you were disappointed. You don't hurt others, you just coax others to disappoint you. So you're a little further on like that, a little bit further on like that. You're still yourself, but you can't finish development. Where the stinger mode, you've given up on that. You just become the aggressor and want to find others to play you to shame. And you're kind of addicted to these things. So these things are in lieu of a relationship. So the addiction to these kind of things and repetition compulsion, like addictions, they're in lieu of a relationship. There's no authentic relating here. There's no two people relating here. Okay, Freud and Freud, mutuality like that. So this is the disturbance of repetition compulsion. Okay, so this is such a key topic. My goodness. So man, oh man, we've got a lot of excellent sets of quotes, like passive aggressiveness. Really, we did 12 videos there. Okay, 26 videos by Janoff a year ago. Those are great quotes. That one there, the Masterson set, the Janoff set, the BPD set, and then the greed set. And we got a lot of good sets, like little sets all the way along. They're like little booklets in of themselves, really. So this current set is really another excellent one. Paul B. Russell. So let's continue with Paul B. Russell. Okay, to interpret affect. Okay, so therapists are meant to, like, if they're feeling something, well, that's a communication. So under the feeling is a need or a wish. So you want to make that link, that when there's a feeling, there's some kind of need underneath. And the need is for we all have needs. Baby has needs to develop and grow and all that. So you want to make that basic link, that underneath the feeling is a wish. Can you identify this basic thing? But see, the problem with the child is he had needs, mother crushed it. He expressed his feelings around his needs being crushed, and the mother crushed the feelings. Holy mackerel. So later on, he doesn't know what he feels or wishes. He doesn't know what he wishes. He doesn't know what he really wants, kind of thing. And then the feelings, what does he feel? Well, the pins in the call, it's all flat. See, so that's why it's kind of hard to, quote unquote, recognize people's feelings and the underlying wishes. That's the trauma. See, when you mourn, the ultimate goal is mourning. And when you mourn, then you start to feel again and you resume development in correspondence to getting your feelings back. So you wanted to study this topic of feelings. So this article, it's all on the topic. So it's synonymous. Feeling, emotion, affect, they're basically synonymous. So to interpret our feelings or affect or emotions, okay, well, first of all, the crucial interpreter of affect is the client, of course. Only the client knows if he's feeling or not feeling, what he's trying to feel. So the trauma means he can't feel. That's the trauma. That's why he repeats to try to feel. You see, if he can feel, he won't repeat. If he can love and be in his body, he won't repeat. He'll be in the present. He's normal, he's healthy, he's cured, he's good. But if that's traumatized, he's repeating because of that. Because of the loss of feelings and the loss of our needs, we repeat and correspond to that point. The trauma makes us repeat to that point. So we're trying to repeat to pick up at the seeds at that point. So yesterday when we played Jim Crochet's clip, the song clip, he said he spent his whole life with a nickel or a million. He searched the world, he searched all of his life for something he left behind. Something he left behind. So what he left behind? He left his development, arrested development, stunted development, developmental arrest, fixation. He left it behind. His soul, he left his soul, his identity, his authentic self. He left it behind. So he searched the world, it was behind. It's all within like that. Okay, so the crucial, so keep that in mind. The client, he's got to discover his feelings like that. But the therapist can maybe help along a little bit. So what the therapist does, he calls it useful errors. He'll just guess around. He'll do like a Columbo thing. Could it be this? Could it be that? Maybe this? He may be wrong, but it facilitates him to know it. So it's like he calls it useful errors. The therapist will be wrong. So it's all very tentative. Could it be? Perhaps he doesn't know. He doesn't know what you feel. Could it be that? Could it be that? It just helps you to brainstorm. Oh, I think that's what it is. And that's the idea of useful errors, he calls it. Kind of like devil's advocate kind of thing. Okay, the therapist's interpretation of affect serves the function of a useful error for the client. So he gives the example of let's say, so an example would be like, like an analogy or a simile would be like, let's say the baby has an expression on his face, and the mother thought that, oh, the baby's happy, he's smiling. And then, later on, oh, wait a minute, no, you're not smiling, you're wanting something. And she makes the correction, and now the child is smiling. So everything's okay like that. So this kind of jiggling or back and forth is okay. Now sometimes the mother gets it directly. Sometimes the therapist understands what he's feeling directly. He calls that a lucky guess. Just consider that a lucky guess, okay, kind of thing. Thankfully, he says, thankfully the process doesn't totally depend on our being right. So the process doesn't depend on the therapist magically reading your feelings, know what your feelings like that. Next part. So next part here. The most important thing inside the mind is affect. All agencies of the mind report to affect. Okay, so he does this thing about affect, nuances of affect. It's a communication, it reflects a wish, it's about attachment, it's about development. It all links to affect. Affect is the seed point. So his example, if there's like a black box, there's the emotion is there and things spring around like that. But under the affect is needing the wish. So he didn't spell it out fully, but all agencies of the mind report to affect. Okay, theory, technique, and modality are transitional objects of the therapist and serve more than anything else the function of allowing the therapist, in whatever way he or she can, to be in the relationship. Therapy attempts to understand affect. I'm reading and my mind's wandering about something there. Theory, technique, and modality are transitional objects of the therapist and serve the function of allowing the therapist to be in a relationship. Okay, so whatever model the therapist is using, okay, object relations theory, developmental theory, relational theory, or whatever model or he's using, Gestalt or what, I don't know, Eric Burns model, whatever he's using, these are just bridges to get into the relationship. So the bridges to get into the realness of what's going on. So you want to face the thing together, right? So a therapist says, you have a hard time feeling something. Well, I'm going to be here for you. So his models and theories just sort of help him like that. It's not like a fixed kind of thing. Anyways, bottom line is therapy attempts to help to understand affect. Okay, so here's the subdivision. Every feeling contains a wish. That's the one part. Okay, perceptions. Perceptions, events, and memories are categorized, are organized emotionally. The prototype is trauma. So think about trauma. You got a trauma, the emotions are there from the trauma. And from the trauma and the emotions of the trauma, the pain of the trauma, you're going to have thoughts, ideas, schemas, models, memories, events, what happened, and the feelings are there. The feelings is like the center of it all. The prototype of this is trauma. Trauma can be measured by the extent of which future events are understood as repetitions or variants of the traumatic event. Yeah, here we go. Trauma can be understood by the extent to which future events are understood as repetitions or variations of the traumatic event. So he calls repetition compulsion a relational PTSD kind of thing. So a mother and a baby had a relationship, trauma, PTSD, repetition compulsion. Repetition compulsion is a phenomenon of PTSD. Okay, you're repeating, because when there's trauma, you're doing it round and round again, right? Trauma can be measured by the extent to which future events are understood as repetitions or new additions, new variants, replays of the traumatic event. So you're not in the present. The present just replay the past. You're just using the present to see it in terms of that past. So you're seeing the present through the lens of the past, the script of the past, the template of the past, the psychic stencil, the psychic template, the lens like that. You're seeing things through that. And that's Bowlby's version of repetition compulsion. You see the days through the past. You see every day through that past. So the past is always there. Every day is the past kind of thing. Commonly people say, because that brain doesn't know time, all time is that time, but the present is that past, because the past is running the show. So yes, materially we understand the present is the present, but in terms of our needs, our emotions, our development, our trauma, our feelings, our memory, that's the past. So there's like that's why our cortex comes in to make us unaware. But meanwhile, underneath, we have an agenda to heal from the past, but we don't want to know the pain of the past. So we repeat, the pain comes up, the defense pushes it down, but we repeat defense. So we don't know that we're doing this. When you're doing it, you're kind of caught up in it like that. Now people who on the outside observe you, they might say, why is he acting like that? Okay, when people have a negative thing going on, or smoking, drinking, that's trauma. That's repetition compulsion of trauma. Okay, so anybody who's dysfunctional or doing something self-defeating or you wonder, why is he doing that? It doesn't make sense. Well, that's a replay. That's from the trauma. The injury makes that stuff. So you see that stuff. Well, that's the inference. Well, that's trauma. The injury does that. So the future comes from the trauma, like that. Every memory is affectively tinged. Without affect, memory would be pointless. Without memory, affect would have no referent. And an enormous amount of what we can or cannot remember depends on what we can or cannot afford to feel. Okay, so memory and feelings are linked. If you can't afford to feel it, you're not going to remember it. If you can feel it, you'll remember. So memories will come if you can feel it. If you can feel it, you're getting your memories. An enormous amount of what we can or cannot remember depends on what we can or cannot feel. So an enormous amount of what we cannot remember depends on what we can't feel. An enormous amount of what we can remember depends on what we can feel. All right. Rendering feelings comprehensible. Knowing that a certain feeling, geez, I'm doing it again. I'm thinking about my afternoon events. Jesus Christ, I haven't processed it. I gotta put it in a bin. I gotta put all these thoughts in a bin, pick up on it when I finish the video. Usually I'm more focused. Today I'm really, okay, never mind. Okay, rendering feelings comprehensible. Knowing that a certain feeling makes sense in a certain context makes it possible to use the feelings as a signal. Everyone knows by feeling more than they realize. Feeling is always interpretable as information. So, feeling as information, obviously. All right. One of the most crucial negotiations consists of whether things have to happen now, feel now, the same as they always have. So that's the negotiation idea. So that's what he means by negotiating your feelings. He uses this thing about negotiate your feeling. Oh, you're feeling something. Let's negotiate this. Do you have to feel that now? That's from the past, isn't it? Identify that's in the past. So in the now, it's not the past. So negotiate this. So he thinks interpretations are about this phenomenon. So he says interpretations are all about this negotiating of your feelings like that. Knowing that a certain feeling makes sense in a certain context makes it possible to use the feeling as a signal. Oh, we did that. One of the most crucial negotiations consists of whether things have to happen now, feel now, the same way they always have. The job of the therapist is to feel the ways in which interpretation and negotiation increasingly come together. So they come together like that. So interpretations is helping you to feel and process your feelings, obviously. All right. The task is to discover the exact place where the client once needed someone and then discover that they were alone. Yeah, so often an interpretation is going to have this point somehow. Okay. You're going to discover the place where you once needed your mother and discovered she abandoned you, she failed you. Okay, so interpretation is going to lead the person to feel that you had a need, a great hope fell. You heard no noise, the wreckage was within oak cunning tale that Lena was in. You had a need, okay, for safety and connection and attachment, she wasn't there, and you were all alone. And you coped with it by doing such and such. One of the clearest ways in which one can see the development of affect. Okay, so the development of affect, right? So paranoid, schizoid to depressive. Okay, either or to both and. Okay, denial, projection, blaming, scapegoating, jungle, or okay, reasonable, human, or jungle. So jungle brain, human brain, basically. Okay, feeling brain. One of the clearest. Hold on a sec. One of the. Hang on a sec. One of the clearest ways in which one can see the development of affect. Okay, let me do this. Let me maybe okay. Hold on. So let me do it this way. Let's do it this way. Oh, sorry. Let me just take a 3-minute. I might need to move over there. Hold on a second. Let's see if I can dig up that song by yesterday's song called Age. Yeah, here it is. Okay. Again.
been so many places I can't remember where or when. And my only boss was the clock on the wall, and my only friend never really was a friend at all. I've traded love for pennies, sold my soul for less, lost my ideals in that long tunnel of time. And I've turned it inside out and around, about and back, and then found myself right back where I started again. Once I had myself a million, now I've only got a dime. Difference don't seem quite as bad today. With a nickel or a million, I was searching all the time for something that I'd never lost or left behind. Well, I've traded love for pennies, sold my soul for less, lost my ideals in that long tunnel of time. I've turned inside out and around, about and back, and then found myself right back where I started again. Second circle and I'm heading for the top. I learned a lot of things along the way. I'll be careful while I'm climbing, cause it hurts a lot to drop. When you're down, nobody gives a damn anyway. But I've traded love for pennies, sold my soul for less, lost my ideas in that long tunnel of time. Inside out and around, about and back, and then found myself right back where I started again.
Let's continue here then. Okay, thank you, Jim Crochet. Yeah. So the main line is in there. The main line is with the nickel or a million. Whoa! He's been searching and searching for something he left behind within. Right? He abandoned himself, or he was abandoned. He abandoned himself, searching. Okay, similar to the song "I've Never Been to Me" by Miss Charlene. I had all these escapades, been there, did that, but I've never been to me, never went within like that. Similar idea. Okay. What are the clearest ways in which one can see the development of affect, the growth of affective competence? Affective competence. See, your emotion. He calls it a dysfunctional feeling system. Denial, projection, protectification, double thinking, all this mostly denial, mostly projection, mostly either or, flip-flopping. This is, you're not containing your feelings. It's too fragmented and blaming. Denial and repression and disavowal, and these are the quote-unquote affective competence is more in the both and the curiosity, wonderment, looking for story. Third side of the coin holds the other two sides. Everyone loves or cries for love. Everyone loves or cries for love. We're all humans, so come on, right off the bat. Well, why is he acting that way? Must be in pain. Maybe he's communicating. He's hurt. Maybe he's communicating that he's angry around what happened to him. He's got tension. So his needs for love wasn't met. So he doesn't know what he's communicating now. So if he developed a narcissistic personality pattern, well, that's the communication of mother never held him. And he had to revert to infantile megalomania that all babies have, where they think they're kings and gods and they feel entitled. So somebody's always entitled. Well, that's the communication. You wonder about that. Well, that's the communication. Well, babies feel entitled. You still feel entitled? That the world owes you a living and everything should set the stage about you, and you don't have to see people's feelings and needs and care about them. It's all about you, and you're supposed to get, and you feel entitled. You can't feel gratitude, you can't feel warmth, you can't feel affection and tenderness, and you got all these oral fixations: smoking, drinking, promiscuity, gambling, greed, and you got this kind of money neurosis like that. Well, that's you're curious about this phenomena around the symptoms of trauma, and those symptoms of trauma hold the person, contain the person, in lieu of the mother having held them. Mother never held them, so these negative things hold them like that. And then no one can be aware of the pain of it, so they camouflage it with defenses above it. So you make excuses that what you're doing is reasonable, called rationalization. So the cortex is pulled into creating rationalizations, these kind of beliefs. So pain creates beliefs, but the beliefs are there to make you unaware that the pain created it. So you're loyal to the belief to make you unaware of the whole thing. But so shall I compare thee to an onion? Okay, the architecture of the treatment process is in the repetition compulsion and its rendering, and it takes place in the therapy. So in the therapy, you're going to see the repetition compulsion, and that's about affective incompetence. If you had affective competence, meaning if you can feel the golden ball, see, we lost the golden ball. That's why we're repeating to get back the golden ball. Golden ball is just a symbol for affective competence, emotional literacy like that. When we say emotional literacy, it means the feeling in your body, like you're connected to yourself, like that. The confusion of memory with perception. Okay, something experienced as occurring in and totally determined by the present situation, but which, in the last resort, we can only understand as determined by the past. So what you're doing in the present was determined by the past. The past was the script, the template, the blueprint, the stencil, the curse, the jinx, whatever you want to call it, right? So the present is from that past. It was determined by the past, called psychic determination, the puppet master. In short, a memory which masquerades as a present day event. Memory which masquerades as a present day. So your present day activity, that's your memory masked. So your present activity is a mask for your past memory, which you don't know. It's masked. So you lift the mask of your behavior, you find the memory of the past idea. One way of saying it, right? Yeah. A memory which masquerades as a present day event. So your present day events are all masks and masquerades for your past memories. The repetition compulsion operates functionally as a resistance to emotion. Yeah. You're searching for emotion, but if you're afraid of the emotion, you can repeat because you're afraid. The repetition compulsion operates functionally as a resistance to affect, to remembering with feeling. So the repetition compulsion operates as a resistance to remembering with feeling. See, you want to remember with feeling, but if you can't remember with feeling, or just act that out, repeat it, and you don't feel. The not feeling makes you repeat. Feeling, then you don't repeat. When you get your history and feeling, you don't repeat. Right? Strictly speaking, therefore, the compulsion to repeat is discernible at the time only by an outside observer. Anyone undergoing a compulsion, repetition compulsion, a compulsive repetition, anyone undergoing a compulsive repetition is unaware that it is a repetition and experiences it instead, indeed insists upon it as a new event, however vaguely familiar. So the person engaged in the repetition compulsion, whatever it is, right? Let's say, okay, for example, passive aggressive. Let's go back to passive aggressiveness. So mother was too demanding and controlling. Don't do this, and you see everybody's your mother with demanding. So you want to rebel against your mother, so you rebel against everybody passively. You're afraid to do it overly, so you do passively. So your repetition compulsion will be everybody. You want something, cold shoulder. That's your rebellion. So fire revenge. You want something, no. And you can say no passively, covertly, sneakily. Don't cooperate, dawdle, make excuses, lie, sin of omission, let things escalate, lateness, mumbling, they can't hear you. It frustrates people. You don't want to cooperate. You're trying to overly say you'll cooperate, but covertly you won't cooperate. That's passive aggressive. So a constant personality of narcissism or bullying or passive aggressiveness, any kind of personality like that, that's a constant repetition compulsion. And you're not aware you're doing it. You're not aware. Now somebody on the outside observing you might notice this. Like if you meet someone who's constantly sarcastic, well, that's oral fixation. Okay, gambling, oral fixation, addicted to drinks and smoking. Okay, that's oral fixation. So the observer can see it. Gee, why is he doing that? Well, that's trauma. He wasn't nursed, wasn't held, wasn't soothed, wasn't comforted, didn't get mother's sweetness, didn't get mother's affection, turning to symbols of it. That's the repetition compulsion. The symbol is not mother, but you got to find mother. How do you find mother? Well, you're not in a well, find a symbol of mother. Okay, symbol is there when the real needs are not met. When real needs are not met, you search for symbols of it. So that symbol, that symbolic pursuit is called symbolic acting out. Okay, that's the repetition compulsion, symbolic acting out again and again, or transverse acting out, repetition compulsion. So due to the compulsion to repeat, we look for symbols of mother and get rejected. In terms of the greed side. So the person in it doesn't know they're doing it. So when somebody reaches for the cookies, they're not thinking about it. They're not thinking about mother didn't comfort them and soothe them. They're just gobbling the cookies. It's hard to pause and reflect on it. Enter Roger Gould's book, Shrink Yourself, on that one. So you experience it, even insist on it. Okay. This is one of the reasons why therapy can't take place alone. It represents one of the basic limits of introspection. This makes it hard to define the repetition compulsion experientially, unless one also includes those moments, often long after the fact, when one begins to wonder whether more is going on than a series of unpleasant, fortuitous recurrence. The repetition of that which, so far as we know, we would far rather not repeat. So here's the funny thing. Consciously, you don't want to repeat that. Like you really consciously don't, but you're doing it. So people feel like they're possessed and they're cursed and they're jinxed or some unknown thing. And he calls it like, what do you call it again? Some force, some kind of a... so that's the thing. The organism wants to get out of the pain. So you're reaching for mother. You want to develop. Reach for mother. Reject it. Reach for mother. Reject it. Because if you get mother, you can develop and have your feelings. But where's mother? Well, it's going to fail. We'll find a symbol so you fail. That's, it means like that. Oh, he calls it a nemesis. Yeah, look at that. So this force doing this, he calls it your nemesis or your curse. Some people call it the jinx or being possessed. Lucy Holmes calls it your destiny. Wrestling with destiny. Wrestling with your jinx and your curse and your fate and your nemesis. There's a new one here, nemesis, yeah. The repetition compulsion of that which, so far as we know, we would far rather not repeat. One has the impression that it is the act of an intelligence that is more than a match for our own intelligence. It can at times operate kind of like it feels like it's kind of like a nemesis or a curse going on here. It's smarter than you. The puppet master is smarter than you. So the iceberg metaphor, the ice under the water is stronger than the ice above the water. The owner of a luxury building who's on the yacht has more power than the doormat. Who is more powerful? The invisible, mysterious owner of the building, who's on a yacht somewhere, on $1 billion yacht or whatever, on the Virgin Islands or something. Who is more powerful, that guy? Or the doorman who's braggadocio, whom you see? You see the doorman, he thinks he's a hot shot. Okay, who's got more power? For the guy who you see, who looks like he's who looks so braggadocio on top. Okay, he acts like he owns the thing or something. Who's got more power? For that guy you see acting like that, or the person you don't see on the yacht, on the billionaire yacht, who owns the billions? And who's got more power? It's an iceberg metaphor. So this is kind of like repetition compulsion, right? So we consciously don't want it, but the unconscious is like that. Actually, I've never mentioned this one. Burglar has another one. I've never used this one. Should we try it quickly? How does it go again? I've never mentioned it. I've always wondered why I don't mention this. It's not a great metaphor. Maybe that's why. So burglar relates some kind of joke. Here it's some kind of joke or something. Some kid was in the submarine or something, right? And he hears his crewmates looking at the periscope thing. What's it called again? Those periscopes. And somebody reported looking through the periscope that he sees the opposite submarine or something. So the young kid, whatever, really? He looks at it himself. He sees the periscope of the other submarine across. He says, "Hey people, don't worry, relax. It's nothing. It's just this tiny little thing. Don't be afraid." So the kid didn't know that the periscope would link to the submarine underneath of the water, the powerful thing like that. So that's he compared it like that, the little periscope and above the water, the whole boat underneath the water. And if it's and it could be dangerous, you know, in certain cases like that. So our unconscious can be harmful to us if we're not aware of it. So you want to befriend, you want to be nice to yourself. Befriend your double self, your secret self, your shadow soul, your inner child of the past. Befriend your feelings. Befriend the one who walks with you, who's not like you, who is you. Befriend this one who's living your life and whom you know nothing about. Befriend this double self, this shadow self, this repressed self, this denied self. Everything about you that you have to repress, deny, the script, the trauma, who you would have been had you been loved, all denied like that. Create a character called the double self. Befriend the double self. Okay, so this is now we got that's another 10-hour video on that path. The same thing will happen again and again despite one's best efforts at avoidance, prevention, or control. Okay, so in the repetition compulsion, so you're triggered that you're alone, you look for the cookies. You do it again and again, right? In fact, it gets its name precisely on this account. Repetition compulsion gets its name because of this. That despite the apparent wish to avoid the pain, the cost, the injury of the repetition, one finds oneself repeating nonetheless, governed by something unknown which one doesn't know and cannot comprehend or control. The repetition compulsion is defined by the inability to feel. Okay, that's a quick one, right? The repetition compulsion is defined by the inability to feel what you're doing in any other way than what you're feeling. So it's the same stuff, same pain, same repeating, same pains. So your feeling is limited, so you repeat because of that, and you're getting the same feeling. It repeats because it doesn't feel any different. Some earlier event in the person's life, which the observer might well describe as genuinely traumatic, and which the subject might be said to be repeating. This is, of course, an assumption, even though some fairly strong evidence exists that something traumatic must have happened. The main reason this is still an assumption, false memories aside, is that the subject doesn't remember it, not at least in any way that makes a difference. Every client belongs to the false memory society. The client was unable to experience then and is unable to remember now the traumatic event in the way that he or she needs to in order to be able to locate the event in the past and feel differently enough that the present and the past can be distinguished. Yeah, so when you're repeating, you're having a hard time discerning what's in the past, what's in the present. The present, something triggered the past. So if something in the present happens, and it brings up a lot of pain in the past, that's the past. But you feel like it's the present. So you're blaming somebody in the present who just reminded you of the past, and you transfer the pain and the core and the cause of the past pain to the person in the present. Doesn't make sense. So all these love songs of unrequited love, where the singer says, "Oh, you lied to me, you cheated me, you fooled me, you broke my heart, you're a heartbreaker, you're a deceiver, you're all these things," right? Okay, well that's no. Those strong kind of fears are from the past. Your mother caused those things. Your mother broke your heart. Your mother was a heartbreaker. Your mother used you, cheated you, lied to you, failed you, betrayed you. The person in the present, they're living their situation. They didn't cause that man's pain that you felt in the nursery about your survival. But you're feeling as if but those survival terrorizing feelings are coming up to the present, and you're angry by it. But the anger you feel towards the present, no, direct it back to its source, to where it belongs, kind of. And then, yeah, Twilight Zone. If you call your mother, "No, I'm angry at you. How dare you?" You're fighting with your mother. Okay, repetition compulsion. Think of it as a. He admits it's not a perfect metaphor, but imagine that a camera. Imagine somebody's building a camera, like a handmade camera or something like that. And while the camera is being built, there's an injury, there's a damage to the camera in the process of the camera being built. Can that camera take a picture of it? Wow, the camera's... It is like the camera trying to take a picture of injury to itself while it's being built. That's not a bad metaphor, yeah. So repetition compulsion is like the camera trying to take a picture of the injury to itself while it's being built. See, we can't know it, right? In this context, time has stopped. Timelessness. The point about whether trauma is real or not is this. Whether or not we can know what did happen, whether or not we can know what did happen, we must assume that some injury occurred from which the person needs to heal. So we got to assume there's an injury, at least that. If somebody's a smoker, drinker, gambler, sex without love, promiscuity, chaos in the relationships, prejudice. If somebody's engaged in prejudice, either or thinking, you got to assume there's an injury. You don't know exactly what the trauma. You can't identify specifically the trauma. Did mother hit? Did mother never hold the baby, or did mother make the baby cry himself to the sleep? We don't know the details or the specifics of how the mother hurt the baby. But so there's some kind of injury nonetheless. So at least we can make that. We're safe on that kind of inference. If somebody's negative, there's an injury. We're not meant to be negative. We're meant to come from the soul, ensoulment, and then we're meant to cooperate. And we're all one family, and we're reasonable like that. We took us all this time to develop the cortex. It's a cooperative cortex, right? People who think otherwise is a symptom of trauma. People with the cynicism, no, the cortex, that's just to help you to be a better. No. The cortex is for cooperation, reason, communication, discussion, learning, connecting with ourselves, and maybe even that if we're wounded, we can use the cortex and consciousness to heal ourselves. So maybe it's all part of healing. The cortex, so we can heal ourselves, be more embodied. A lot of people think the cortex was developed. It's a cooperative thing. It's built in for cooperation. We're meant to be cooperative. Yeah. The confusion is when you're trauma, you're misusing the cortex, kind of thing. Let's quickly do 18 here. So let's continue here. Okay, back to here. Okay, the components. So back to the components of affect. Okay, first of all, so he's got a few components here, or aspects of affect. See, not many people do this, right? So first of all, the wish. The repetition compulsion is a paradox of intentionality. The repetition compulsion, by the way, some of this music is copyright. I have to trim out some of this stuff. There's something called Theory Corporation. It keeps getting copyrighted. The repetition compulsion is a paradox of intentionality. Okay, so you're repeating. So wait a minute. Intentionality here. Did I do this? Or was it done to me? What's the intention? My inner child is intending this? Or am I intending this? Who's intending this? On one hand, the experience is of something happening from the outside. It's the experience. The agency is external. Like you're projecting this unknown mechanism that's making you do it, and you think it's external. On the one hand, you might think it's like that, like it's being done to me, something's making me do it. You don't realize something within is making you do it. On the other hand, there are hundreds of ways in which it becomes obvious, even to the person involved, that the repetition compulsion is motivated. So it's motivated from within. It could happen in no other way. Okay. So in this paradox of intentionality, he's saying it's within, it's motivated from within. You're trying to heal, you're trying to feel, you're trying to get your identity, you're trying to know your story. That's why you're repeating. There's no external outer thing making. There's no magical witch in the sky cursed you or something. There's no outer thing that caused this. There's no entity on the outside from another planet who said abracadabra to you, and that's what's causing. No, there's no external source from another planet that's making you repeat, that's making you reach for the cookies. You are reaching for the cookies because Mother didn't soothe you and comfort you, didn't give you sweetness. So you're doing it with them. It could happen no other way. Again, the repetition compulsion is a paradox of intentionality. Wait a minute, did I repeat this? Or was it done to me by something? So part of me says, maybe there's some kind of external agency making me do this. Well, wait a minute, hold the phone here. There are hundreds of ways in which it becomes obvious that the repetition compulsion is personally, inwardly motivated. It can happen no other way. All right. Memory. The repetition compulsion is a paradox of time. Wait a minute. What's the time factor here? Am I repeating this? Is this because it's something about now, or is it because of something about then? Is it a now or is it a then? So when you reach for the cookies, is it like now or is it a then? No, it's a then. In the past, you wanted Mother's sweetness. It's a then. In the now, you're doing the then. Then is now. Now is then. Despite the uncanny deja vu, in the midst of the repetition, there is no non-paradoxical solution as to when this is happening now, happening then. Cognition. Cognition. Is this real, what I'm doing? Can I trust what I seem to know about what's happening? I think about it. Is this real, what I'm doing? No, it's a mirage. It's a symbolic mirage. Communication. Wait a minute. Communication. So in a relationship, okay, and when the repetition compulsion is going on between two people, okay, well, who's communicating what to whom here? Do I want you to feel what I'm feeling? Are you wanting me to feel something? Are you wanting me to feel this, what I'm feeling? Or do I want you to feel what you're feeling? Who's communicating what to whom here? Negotiation. I do not believe that I am negotiating any of this, and yet it must be. Am I making all of this happen? Okay. So we're trying to broaden our feelings somehow, right? What about ownership of feelings? Ownership is paradoxical in the midst of repetition compulsion. The question, is this me or is this you, becomes intensely unanswerable. So when two people are relating and both people are feeling stuff, wait a minute, this stuff that I'm feeling, are these like actually my organic feelings from my past that I gotta own? Or is this like induced in me somehow by the contagious effect by the other person? I don't know, it's not really from me. So this is the confusion like that. And even if it was induced in you, Shouldn't you still own it? Or no, maybe you shouldn't own it. Maybe you got to discern what feelings do you own, what feelings are just provoked in you by the other person. It's not really yours. Unanswerable stuff here. Attachment. Do I not feel attached to you? Oh, sorry. I do not feel attached to you or to anyone else in the midst of this. And yet, it is also true that the only way I can feel attached to anyone at all is through this happening in this way. Hey, who are you anyways? Okay. So this trauma is all about relationship trauma, attachment trauma, interpersonal trauma, right? So there's a link between repetition compulsion and this issue of attachment, right? Relationality. So when you're repeating, who are you connected to? Who are you not connected to? Who are you trying to connect to? Wait a minute. Repetition compulsion is about relationships. So who am I? Who are you? What is this here? Okay, development. I must find some way to feel about all of this that I do not have now. What is it that I'm looking for, that I need? Oh, my mind's wandering too much today, my God. Again, there must be some way to feel all about this that I cannot. There must be some way to feel all about. There must be some way to feel about all of this that I cannot, that I do not have now. What is it that I'm looking for, that I need? Development. You need to get your needs met for your development. So can you identify repetition compulsion and this issue of needs for development? Can you make the link between repetition compulsion and the need for development? That's what he means here, I think. Okay, competence. If I'm feeling this, can I choose what I feel? Oh my God, he has a funny one. I got to dig it up here. He's got a line there that you only feel what you choose not to feel. Something like that. Okay, next one here. Weather. Okay, so this is leading up to this. So all that was just a preface to this next one here. Okay, whether the repetition compulsion originally happened this way or not, it is experienced by the person as the loss of someone the person needed to have there. Needed to have had there. Sorry. Whether the repetition compulsion originally happened this way or not, it is experienced by the person as the loss of someone the person needed to have had there, but who was not there. This can be, but does not need to be, an actual helpful, caring person whom the person once had in his or her life, but was then lost. It can also be the loss of someone who might have been there, but wasn't. This kind of loss is much harder to grieve. This point was often made by my buddy Elvin Semrad. So, I think if I understand it correctly, you never had a mother. How do you mourn the loss of called melancholy? You can't. But there could have been a mother. That's what you're losing. This person that could have been there. And you're repeating the loss of this person who could have been there. So maybe it's like a lot of this romantic love stuff. Maybe you see somebody and you think that could be the one. You don't see the reality, and you might have a hard time letting go of a dream of somebody meeting your needs back in the past. So your mother didn't meet your needs back in the past. You find somebody who reminds you of the mother. That's the could have been mother. Okay. And the repetition will occur until that someone is found. Yeah. So you're not going to find this elusive mother in the present. And the repetition compulsion will keep on going. So you can have 20 lifetimes, okay, searching for people who remind you of the mother who failed you. that person isn't person going to morph into be the loving mother you should have had back in the past via a time machine, and that person becoming your mother that should have been there in the past. It's not going to happen, right? But you're searching for somebody whereby that somebody is your mother in the past that loved you. Nobody in the present is your mother in the past. No, you're not in the nursery. No one. Okay, you get the idea, right? So this is the nature of repetition compulsion. He didn't get mother who loved you, so you're searching for mirages, for hopes, for reminders, things that trigger you, and hoping you can do it again and again, and it never works. Same thing with the money. You can be greedy. It never translates to getting mother's material love in the past. Money can buy things like that. So same thing with all the other things, the ice cream and the money and the material and the shopping, buying things. Okay. It is also true that the repetition compulsion operates as a safety device, as a preventative agent against the injury happening again. You see, you repeat this to control the trauma. Mother traumatized you, so you traumatize yourself through the repetition. So you repeat, so you traumatize yourself. Mother traumatized you, stop it, mother. I don't want to be a victim of this. I'll take charge. I'll do it. I'll traumatize myself. So I've never heard anybody say this, but we can say that repetition compulsion is a Faustian deal. You sell your soul when you're traumatized. You don't live in the present, you live in the past. So repetition compulsion means you're living in the past, but this time you're going to traumatize yourself. So you want a mother rejected you. Well, you do it. You search for mother, and you orchestrate it, you maneuver it, you manage it, you misuse situations, you provoke situations, you make the whole thing happen. You know what's going on. You're the one doing this, and you're going to be disappointed. Yeah, okay, that's a key point here. It is also true that the repetition compulsion operates as a safety device, as a preventative against the injury happening again. So it's like a never again, right? The baby was passive. I can never be passive with my mother doing this. Faustian deal, I'll hurt myself. At least there's some sense of managing the situation. It's like you know what's happening, you're going to do it, so you're prepared for it or something. Something along those lines. That's why it's so hard to heal from repetition compulsion, because you're hurting yourself the way your mother hurted you, the way your mother hurt you. And this is considered a safety device, because you don't want to feel you don't want to re-experience mother hurting you. So you have to be the active agent who hurts yourself. Faustian deal, once again. It includes the entire collection of methods the person made use of at the time in order to survive. So all those defense mechanisms you did to survive includes identification with the aggressor. Numbing, pin in the collar, identification with the aggressor, either or, denial, projection, etc. The devices are almost exclusively lonely devices. These are lonely things we did within ourselves, right? So, so things like trust and safe dependency, competence, negotiation, mother soothing you, those were not available then. The reason I say almost and not totally lonely is that people do repeat with real live other people. It is the one remarkable piece of competence in the repetition. It is capable, therefore, of being repeated in the therapist. So one thing you can trust is that you're going to repeat it. That's the only reliable thing you got here. This is both the danger and the safety of the treatment process. The repetition compulsion, in the emotional context in which it takes place, is inversely related to intimacy. So if there's intimacy, you don't repeat. There's no intimacy, you're going to repeat. Okay. It functions very much as an addiction in lieu of intimacy. So repetition compulsion, there's no connection, no love, you repeat. Just like the addict is in love with the thing, not in love with the person. That's why people who marry addicts or something like that, there's no relationship there. They're married to the thing, or they're married to mom or something. Narcissism means they're married to mom. They're not married to the person, right? And to the episode, the Twilight Zone episode, Young Man's Fancy. He's married to mother. Couldn't love his wife. He was married to his mother. Wife freaked out and took off, ran down the stairs. I'm out of here. You see her running down the stairs. Go to Young Man's Fancy for that one. Twilight Zone season 4 of the original, in the early one of the earlier episodes. Okay, repetition compulsion functions very much as an addiction in lieu of intimacy. If you have a real relationship, you're not addicted and you don't repeat. But no one knows how to have that. Because to get that, on route to get that, you gotta mourn. But you gotta have a relationship to mourn. See the double bind like that. Repetition compulsion is a contrivance to control risk, a search for safety, the safety of not involving anyone else. Genuine intimacy makes the repetition compulsion unnecessary, right? Genuine intimacy. But to have genuine intimacy, you need an identity. How do you get an identity? You gotta mourn. Then you can have intimacy. So it's one of these like, like the kid, Burglar has the example of, you look through the shop glass, you're outside on the sidewalk looking through the shop window, and you see the candies inside. You've got the money, but you refuse to stay outside. You're just so afraid or something. Genuine intimacy makes the repetition compulsion unnecessary. However, the individual tests every potential intimacy through the repertoire of his or her repetition to the extent that the intimacy survives. If this process continues, the repetition becomes very gradually less a repetition and more of a genuine negotiation. Okay, so in the therapy process, the client's going to repeat. If the therapist can hold it and think about it, process it, then things are being negotiated. This is the rendering of the repetition. As the repetition compulsion is rendered, the meaning of the phrase search for safety begins to change. The safety of aloneness is gradually, very slowly relinquished in favor of an utterly new event in this particular context, i.e. safety within a relationship. So safety alone in your private thing, or you can trust somebody finally, the safety there. The repetition compulsion can yield to nothing other than attachment and involvement. Okay, it's the only way out of repetition compulsion is connection. Okay, like a trusted connection. Yeah, he talks a lot about this point about the importance of the relationship can heal repetition compulsion. It's hard to. Repetition compulsion is due to a failure of relationship. So how are you going to heal? How are you going to heal that alone? Right? The repetition compulsion. Okay, hang on. It can yield only to a relationship that is prepared to undertake at least as much risk and pain as occurred when the repetition began. Okay, so if couples get married, they're going to both bring their repetition compulsions. Can they stay with each other and process it? Can they go to couples therapy? Can they read books? Can they make I statements? Can they pass the eagle feather? Okay, can they pass the talking? Can they create a ritual where they can do clearings? Can they be conscious that they're testing the other person, testing for safety? Are you safe? Are you safe? I'm here. You're reliving the past. I'm here, and you negotiate. So the partners can negotiate for each other. So marriage can be a healing. Marriage can be therapy if they're conscious of this. They're both therapists to each other. So the married couple functions like therapists to each other. Right? If they're aware that the other person is going to crush them. each person brings their traumatic misunderstandings. It's going to come up eventually. That's the crisis of the marriage, right? And now if someone freaks out, then they succeeded in creating the misunderstanding. Then they failed, right? But if they're aware of this, oh, you're bringing the traumatic misunderstanding to the present, I'm here. And you're doing the same thing, I'm here. So if they're conscious that they're going to be there facing each other's past like that, marriage is a psychological healing, emotional healing kind of thing like that. That's what he means here, I think. So repetition compulsion can give way only to a relationship that is prepared to undertake at least as much risk and pain as occurred when the repetition began. That's the test of safety, right? That's why couples are always testing each other. Are you safe? Are you safe? Are you safe? And many times no one can pass these kind of tests. So sometimes it's kind of too much, right? The fully rendered repetition will deliver a situation. Doing okay? Oh, good. Oh, I've been lucky the past couple of days here. Yeah, okay. The fully rendered repetition will deliver a situation that replicates the potential fear, damage, etc., that made the person give up on the possibility of human connection being of any use to him or her. There are at least two very real risks in this process as it unfolds. The first is that the disaster that once happened will indeed happen again. Yeah, other person, I'm out of here, you're too much work, too much, I can't handle this, I'm out of here, you're crazy. Okay, it happened again, right? One can almost define the rendering of the repetition as a process that will make the disaster happen. The repetition compulsion will try to make it happen. It'll coerce the relationship so it happens. If there is the slightest, remotest chance that it could. Okay, that's the testing is really at full blown, right? Even if you pass the test, you're not going to believe it and crash it anyways. That's the BP. In the case of the BPD one, nothing the other person can do. They're gonna reject you before you're gonna reject them or something. There is a perverse intelligence to this arrangement. It is as if the person is saying, quote, I can't trust you until I know for sure that this will not happen again. That this will not happen again. If it's gonna happen again, let us have done with it, get it over with, while I still have some coping strategies, some life and energy left before we do anything else. So the more conscious they can be of this stuff, the greater the chance the two can hold each other, contain each other, and heal the repetition compulsion, right? And love again, learn to love again, or something like that. But if they're not conscious of it, people are going to provoke it early. Let me make it difficult for you. Let me push you to reject me. Let's get it over with. And they control the thing. Well, if you're going to reject me eventually, let me accelerate it and speed it up, and don't waste too much time and hope and feeling and trust. Let me be rude to you now, and then you'll reject me. Aha, okay, I knew it. You failed the test. The repetition compulsion is an attempt to coerce identity, to find identity. See, in a relationship, you gotta have an identity. So people want their identity. Okay? So they want their identity. Good therapy is a profound stress and will inevitably put the client in touch with the pain that he or she has not felt before. It is this pain, however, which will enable the client to remember as memory as opposed to repetition. Okay, so are you going to remember by repeating, which means you don't remember, or are you going to remember with feeling and then you don't repeat? The hardest part is the pain of memory. The hardest part of healing is the pain of memory. the pain of memory. See, when you remember, there's feelings. That's the pain of it all. You can't remember if you're not willing to feel the memory. That's the hardest part of it. Okay, 38. Okay, that's it. 31. 38. Hold on a second. Oh yeah, okay. Okay, let's just quickly recap a few from previous ones. So from 36. So there was an interruption in the attachment. That's what you're going back to all the time. There was an interruption in the attachment. Mother, baby, interrupted. Mother crashed to interruption, pain. So you can't have your identity. You can't have your emotional competence. You can't have your wide range of feelings. You're in stress mode. Repetition compulsion is a replay of that thing. There, you're stuck there. You replay, stuck there. But you create it, and you're stuck there. And to get out of it, you want to. Is it safe for somebody in the present to bring those memory and feelings? Okay, Melanie Klein one, affects or object seeking. Okay, the word affect carries a clear connotation of accompanying bodily. It's in your body. Your feelings are in your body. So when we say feeling, emotion, affect, it corresponds to something going on in the body, obviously. Some people don't believe that. Okay, the trauma is usually a systemic thing in the family where the parents scapegoat the kid. Okay, so it might not be like a shock to the kid. It could be just the constant misattunements, the malattunements, the mother using the baby to comfort her, the mother dumping on the kid, scapegoating the kid to make herself. Okay, this kind of family systems theory is usually the trauma. Okay, this aloneness idea, unresolved issue. Russell believes that the person may reproduce the original trauma in some way, or may reproduce the disruption of relationship or attachment, which is a feature of it. Either way, we can be sure that what is reproduced is what the person needs to feel in order to repair the injury. Let's do 5. Hold on a second. $31. Not 35 here. The architecture of memory. So everybody's heard of George Santayana's 1954 quote, "Those who can't remember the past are condemned to relive it," page 82. So this is related to the architecture of memory. The repetition compulsion goes to the heart of the capacity to remember and the capacity to feel. Okay, the repetition compulsion goes to the heart of the issue around the capacity to feel and remember. The idea would be that repetition occurs in lieu of something that we can't feel, emotional incompetence. Given the failure to feel, the rest, the compulsive repetitions, happen necessarily, mathematically, if you will. Okay, let's not do the skiing example here. The failure of the capacity to feel costs one some measure of the capacity to perceive reality. Okay, this phrase, the shadow of the object. How does the shadow of the object fall upon the ego when both object and ego are not yet clear? So mother and one are kind of blurred up. It's one like that. Okay. Other terms for this nemesis, curse, jinx, fate, script, destiny is malignant attraction. Another one is some kind of, where's the flame? It's got one up with the flame, some kind of strange flame or something. Some like a moth to the flame or something. Okay, so trauma, first there's trauma, then the compulsion to repeat. Obviously, all right. The problem of repetition compulsion is inseparable from the problem of affect. Okay, okay. That was 5. I think, yeah, let me see if I can print. Okay, next time I do this, next time I run through, I'm going to print out on paper these 8 pages so I can be more convenient. Okay, the BPD one. Okay, this is all the confusion of identity diffusion. This can only be me if it's you. This can only be you if it's me. I am both responsible and victimized. We are both responsible for what occurs. The present is sacrificed to the past in order to make the past alive again. You're not living in the present. You want to make the past alive to you to process the past. You're spending your whole life still trying to process the past. You see, we're frozen with this stuff. See, people call it, no one calls it flash frozen fear, flash frozen anger, permanent emergency, frozen. You're stuck in the past like that. And that's what you're repeating to get out of this thing. And then people talk about in nature, when animals are stressed out, they can just kind of shake it off sometimes. Like if the possum, if an animal's shocked or something, he's feared, he's afraid, he can like do this epileptic kind of thing. It's not an actual Janov says it's a kind of epilepsy. What animals do, they shake it off and they're all okay, then they run off again. No humans can really do that. Janov claims he's seen it. He's seen the shaking, and there is a clip on YouTube of a lady shaking it off. Yeah, it's interesting. Okay, again, is it now? Was it them? Did I do this? Was it done to me? Is it you? Is it me? All this stuff is coming up. Okay, the main one about the BPD is the moment the person with BPD thinks somebody wants something. Okay. They got to recreate the traumatic misunderstanding. So the mother abandoned them, they'll coax you to abandon them, or they'll abandon you. In revenge, that mother abandoned them. So this is the whole chaos like that. Okay, another way to talk about this inner nemesis is some kind of internal systemic error that eludes our perception and control. There is some powerful resistance. Oh, it's spooky, he says. It's more than unsettling. It's this something spooky inside. So there's something inside us, some kind of mechanism inside us that's making us repeat. Why don't we just feel and relax? Why are we still frozen? In other words, why are we frozen? Why does the system make us freeze? Well, we survive. It was a survival thing, right? So we learn. It's like a deep learning, a deep conditioning, a deep hypnosis. Like we're kind of, yeah. One guy says we're kind of hypnotized, and living life is when you're hypnotized. The hypnotist, it's as if your mother is a hypnotist, and the mother says to you, when you live life, you're going to stay in this past. therapists do. Okay, I'm really just skipping here. I'm not really doing this justice here. 33. Okay, the idea about parameters is in here. So you can rephrase instead of pattern. You can say parameter. Oh, she's got the BPD parameter, like a limit. She's got the narcissistic parameter, acting out parameter, emotional eating parameter, or symbolic acting out parameter. These are like parameters. So that kind of implies a limit like that. Oh, the BPD one. Okay, so one example of how the BPD creates the chaos is her name was Doris, right? Doris feels misunderstood by the shrink. Okay, well the shrink tries to understand. Oh, you're trying to understand me? I feel pressured. Therapist backs off. Oh, you're backing off? I feel abandoned. Therapist tries to connect again. Well, I feel pressured again. I feel anxious, angry now. I feel misunderstood. I feel more now. Okay. Therapist now feels that the therapist feels that Doris is trying to prove. Okay, I want to prove it that you don't understand me. Doris feels that the therapist is misunderstanding and now attacking in a way that is profoundly familiar to her past. She's recreating it. Huh? Therapist is sincere. It's his vocation to understand himself and help others. That's the meaning of his life, like that. So he's doing everything he can to understand. But she will see it differently. She will say, you don't understand. Oh, you're trying to understand, are you? Well, I feel pressured. Back off, mother. She thinks the therapist is the mother now. So he backs off to give her some breathing space. Oh, you're backing off. Are you going to abandon me? Oh, you're not going to abandon me. Now you're pressuring me. Now in the build-up, round 2, I'm angry now. Okay, you're trying to create this, aren't you? Doris wants to believe and re-experience the familiar thing that happened in the past, a new edition. The client's only memory, only understanding, only feeling in this context is being traumatically misunderstood. There is a paradoxical, protective safety of desperation in the repeat of that experience. To abandon it is to abandon what little there was. From the client's point of view, feeling misunderstood is the only way of having a relationship. Feeling misunderstood is the only way of having a relationship. So Doris, her only way of relating is this stuff, is this BPD chaos. So she never relates, she never connects, never attaches, never trusts, just creates chaos all the time. So there's a drama queen or hysterical, whatever you want to call it. That's their safety. They're creating what happened to them. They're creating their experience back in the past. Mother created the chaos, well, they created the chaos. And that's their only kind of holding. That's their only kind of a connection, sense of connection. The only way out of this dysfunctional, traumatic attachment, once again, you feel safe enough to tell your story, admit, he said, get to a place where healing is more important to you than repeating. And part of the mourning is realizing that it doesn't need to be this way. It doesn't need to be this way, this drama way. It doesn't need to be this way. It never needed to be this way. What a loss of all that time lost. It never needed to be this way, but it was that way. It never needed to be that way. Oh my God. It never needed to be this way. There's going to be like a sadness in that area, right? Here it is here. Yeah. There is then a new and powerful sense of something which has been needless and self-destructive. A lot of the sadness is the following. The sense that the client has now, that things do not and did not have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way. It never had to be this way. There's a real sadness in this area. There is then a new and powerful sense of something which has been needless and self-destructive. Finally, the past is owned by the client in a new way. The capacity to mourn is what finally allows one to relinquish the attachment to the past, to perceive the present as distinct from the past and making less necessary the repetition of the past. Okay, so if you remember, you're going to be sadder but wiser. Sadder but wiser in connection with the capacity to remember. So that's the evolution of your feelings. If you're in denial, blame, split, repressed, denial, okay? So everything unloved about you, others are no good. You deny it's with them. You don't own your projections. Okay? You don't understand the mechanism of projection. You just imitate the mother. Kind of simple like that. You don't want to face the ambivalence, the confusion that the mother was lovely sometimes and frustrating mainly. There's two sides there. And understand why she was frustrated and get to that place of the third side of the coin that holds the two sides, famously known as holding the tension of the opposites. I've never liked that phrase really. That's this Windmills phrase. It conveys the idea that can you embrace and feel the two is one. So in the Disney film 2, with Riley at the end, you saw the group hug scene. Is it this? Is it that? Is either or, hug, hug? Oh, something new popped up. The new symbol came up. The sense of self came up. In the Three Faces of Eve film, she started off as either or. Frozen child, wounded child, critical parent. Wounded child, critical parent. Okay, so she has Eve white, Eve black. Also either or, Eve white or black. And then after therapy, those two disappeared and a new sense of self called Jane came on. So Jane was the both and. Jane was the healed, healthy, normal person. Whereas before it was just either or. So when she was Eve white, she was gloomy and depressed, like a depressed child. Okay, when she was Eve black, okay, the aggressor, she was dangerous. So the daughter would say to the mother, "Mother, I like it when you're Jane. I can relax, I feel free, I'm happy. Please, could you please be Jane? You know, I don't like it when you're Eve white because you bring me down. You know, when you flip to Eve black, you scared the daylights out of me. I love it when you're Jane." So when she became Jane, sure enough, the other two just dissolved away. Because Jane is the psychosynthesis and the integration, and something new came, the previous either or disappears, it dissolves away kind of, basically. So this is famously known as find the both and. Sadder but wiser. And that's sadder but wiser too, right? It's easy to just say, your mother, it's easier to deny that your mother hurt you and just lie, oh, she's a goddess. It's simple like that. It's delusional, simple, you know. It's more mature to admit the truth, you know, sadder but wiser. We attempt to discover what it is the person is not allowing to be felt. Okay? We attempt to discover what it is the person is not allowing to be felt, because that failure to feel costs one the capacity to know themselves. It costs them their identity. Yeah, see? It costs you your identity. So we attempt to discover what it is the person is not allowing to be felt, because that failure to feel costs them their identity. People often say, I don't want to talk about it. Well, when might they want to talk about it? Well, if they sense there's a relationship, all right. Okay, a lot about the relationship. The repetition compulsion serves as a reminder that we have not yet found a way to feel differently. That's a good one, huh? The repetition compulsion serves as a reminder that you're still feeling the same old stuff. You're being reminded that you're not feeling differently. That means there's a failure of development, unfinished development, stunted development. In its broadest sense, the repetition compulsion is attachment to the past, which to that degree destroys the present. Living the past is its own kind of self-harm. But the seeds of emotional growth reside within the repetition compulsion. Yeah. The seeds of your, back to Jim Crochet's song, searching around, repeat, repeat, repeat. He said he did all these stupid things in his life, repeat, repeat, repeat. He didn't know he was searching for the seed of the past, something he left behind. Oh, on this Sky Train, I imagine there's an ad that says 1001 Windmills of the mind. Save yourself, no, heal yourself. 1001 Windmills of the mind. saved by understanding. 1001 Windmills of the mind. Saved by understanding. Saved by increased understanding. Healed through increased understanding. www.narrativemedicine.com/ patreon.com/narrativemedicine. For the price of a tin of soda, you can get this collection. We'll get back to the Melanie Klein, back to the parameters one. When the therapist feels like giving up because of the crunch. Oh, psychopathology is measured by the severity of the repetition compulsion. So dysfunction, neurosis, psychopathology, all that stuff, it's synonymous with repetition compulsion. The perspective at this point is that psychopathology represents a retrieval mechanism. Those Jim Crochet, what you left behind, it's a retrieval. So you're retrieving the seeds that are under the cement. You want those seeds to come up and resume and blossom again. Okay, let's do 31 quickly. Okay, where are you? 31. 31. At the core of every neurosis lies a repressed wish, infantile wish. As you trace out the wish, you will eventually come upon the remains of a point in the person's life where it was necessary to experience a certain wish in order to continue to grow. So these wishes were needed for your development to grow, and it didn't happen. It didn't happen because something actually existed at that time in reality. In other words, the individual perceived accurately that the experiencing of their wish posed an actual threat to the person. So babies make this sad conclusion that having a need and then having a feeling around that need not being met, i.e. anger, threatens the mother. Baby says to himself, whoa, little old me, tiny little passive helpless me, I just want to be held and sung a lullaby and nursed when I need to and feel safe. That bothers the mother. She freaks out and gets angry and attacks me. These little things on my end disturbs the monster. I'm terrified of the monster. Well, I better give it up then. I want to get along with the monster. So from the baby's tiny perspective and sense of powerlessness, helplessness, dependency, the mother's got all the grand power. From the baby's eyes, the mother's a giant, right? But the baby wants to get along with the giant. Doesn't want to disturb the giant, sacrifice himself. Mother, do I have to give up me to have a connection with you? That's what he does. Because he thinks that'll lead to dysfunction, And that's him protecting the mother, comforting the mother, placating the mother, pleasing the monster, etc. And then his anger turns in, a new monster is with him, and that's holding him. Pathology occurs for one reason or another when the child needs to hold on to the monster to serve in the place of some actual failure of containment. It is the child's necessary attempt to do this to protect the parent against the child's wishes. But this warps him, and it's carried in his life. The repetitive compulsion is the price we pay for the failure to grieve our losses. The avoidance of loss, the failure of mourning, will take a toll which is far more costly to the person than loss which has been grieved. Therapy consists of facing down one's necessary losses, an attempt to get the most mileage out of the healing and growth that inherently exists in any relationship. So the relationship is the healer, so therapy maximizes that. Every feeling contains a wish. The repetition compulsion, it's an attempt to continue an interrupted relationship in the service of the emotional growth that was earlier broken off. Okay, again with the scar tissue idea. The symptom, so you're going to get a symptom, right? Your symptoms, whatever they are, captures both the miscarriage of the wish and the real state of affairs that brought it about. The symptom represents the client's own failed attempt at containment. Beyond the wish is reality. That mother did this, and beyond interpretation of the wish is the containment that in reality didn't occur. Yeah. So your psychosomatic symptom, okay? So you had a wish, your defense, caused by how mother treated you. You put it together, mother treated you. So you got a wish, mother treated you, and you defensed it all. That goes into a symptom. Symptom is those two things. Now you got a symptom. You're using the symptom to hold you now. That's your attempt to, in lieu of mother comforting you, your symptom, your pain is holding you, comforting you. So it's more than a teddy bear, it's your mother almost, right? That's why people cling to their symptoms. That's the only mother they had. It's familiar, it's the only mother they know, the only mother they have, their symptom. You're gonna give that up, what do you have? You see, that's one way of thinking about it, I guess. Psychopathology represents some kind of failure of containment in the past. Okay, so his example was, if you know somebody with NPD, okay, any kind, passive-aggressive narcissist, waif narcissist, clinging, bind narcissist, okay, voyeur narcissist, or complementary narcissist, turtle narcissist, or the overt exhibitionist, the cookie cutter one, or the Don Juans and the Peer Gyns, or the worst ones, the Don Quixotes, or the bully ones, or the passive-aggressive bully, Iago ones, and so on down the line. All these kind of things, okay? They will relate to you as if without respect for your feelings. Like they can't see you in a feeling place as a separate person, as a person in your own right, okay? They need to quote-unquote not see you as a person because they're still entitled to receive. So everybody's a symbolic breast that should serve them. So they see others as in a utilitarian kind of way, you should serve me. The way the baby needs to be fed and nursed and he's entitled, and the baby thinks he owns the breast is a part of him. So the breast is there for him, to serve him. He's a king and a god, he's a magician, it's for him. So they're still in that kind of place. They need to do this because this reflects how they were not held by the mother. The client needs to do this because the narcissism represents their own attempt to repair an actual failure in the holding environment. So you have the unconscious hope. When there's trauma, you have the unconscious hope for the fulfillment of the old unfulfilled need to be contained and held. So the world is your symbolic breast and you want to be held. So you maintain that. You still have that hope. You can spend your whole life with this delusional hope that the world is the breast that's going to feed you and nurse you. So this is a scene when people say, world owes me a living. Those kind of slogans. Or any very selfish attitude, basically. Cynicism is going to be there. Okay. Now, at the same time, in terms of empathy, whenever someone is dysfunctional, originally that was their attempt to protect the parents, keep the parents together. Family systems theory. They were scapegoated. So the parents scapegoated them. The parents stayed together, and the child went along with this. Okay, Harold Searles makes the point that people with whatever problem, it may be understood that it's their attempt to cure a parent. Morton Keesem. Dysfunction means you're protecting the parent, curing the parent, saving the parent. So the kid's scapegoat. He goes along with it. The person senses correctly that their dysfunction in the family is necessary for the family to function, and the person undertakes to bear the burden. Okay, this dynamic doesn't apply only to fill in the blank. So if the two parents are both narcissists, they need one of the kids to be dumped on and scapegoated. So usually they'll find one kid who's a failure like that, miserable like that. But he played that role to keep the parents together. Okay, I think I got it. Jeez, I wish oh man, what a pity about today, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna print, I want to get one good video where I run through these 8 pages in a clear, coherent, organized manner. I've been very choppy for these past 4 videos. So this is the 4th video I've been on with Russell's work, but it covers 8 pages. Yeah, 4, 1, 1, and then 2, right? Yeah. Okay, so below, let's see what's below. What's going to be posted below? So we're doing a 90. What is it again? 93, 3093 below. What is it? Now I've done this quotes in preview mode already a fair bit. So they're pretty clear. It's mainly by Masterson, one of the mentors. So these are great quotes. The first one is, the first 2 are from a self-help book, and the rest of it, the bulk of it is from Masterson. So it's always worth reading Masterson. So I spent a fair bit of time on this. If by chance you want to hear my discussion on this, you'll find it a month ago or something. So that'll be posted below. And so again, your mission, submitted for your approval, submitted for your consideration, is to read 31 to 8. Those 8 pages, and see what you think. See what you think about repetition compulsion, what he says about repetition compulsion, about it's a failure to development, it's about a failure to develop, it's about the hope to resume development. The feeling couldn't be with you, and the pain of not feeling is what also drives it. The pain of not feeling is what drives it. Oh, well, they've got some Italian music in the background. That's a nice song. Okay, I'll know what this is. This camera will pick up what this music is in the background, and maybe I'll play it next time. Can you hear it? Yeah, okay, let's close it up here. This will be a shorter video. Okay, yeah, thanks very much. It's too bad about my absent-mindedness in this video. I've been very repetition compulsion. Repetition compulsion. So what did I repeat today? That was self-defeating or something like that. Yeah. So that means I'm searching for my identity. I'm searching for broader feelings. I want to feel differently. I don't want to feel the same thing. I want to feel wider. So I'm repeating it. And this is some kind of inner nemesis or inner curse or whatever. Inner bug or default or something, a bug or a systemic thing in there. Nobody knows what it is. So I guess on an individual level, I'm thinking like the more I can remind myself about this topic. The repetition compulsion is about limited feeling, wanting to feel more, wanting to get back to feelings, which corresponds to the resumption of your emotional development, right? And if you feel embodied, you don't need to repeat. So you might, so your interactions might be of the hope for the relationship that can help you to feel, so you don't need to repeat, kind of thing, right? Okay, this is a picture of the singer, Omawumi. Let me dig up the dance routine. It just took place a few months ago. Oh, here we go. Okay, it's just under 3 minutes long. So here's so the music is by the singer Omawumi. She's sort of a pop diva in Nigeria, and she's just, it seems she has one main hit called If You Ask Me. I sometimes play her other song called When the Boss Is Coming, a fun song. Anyways, you don't see her singing here, but the music in the background, and this dance group or dance company or something. Oh, Body Language Company, is that it? Is that what it's called? They do a kind of a energized dance routine to the song. That was a fun kind of thing. So I'll play the dance number. When it ends, I'll just hit the stop button, and I'll see you in the next video. So for the love of narrative medicine, thanks very much. Um, and somebody said love and understanding are the same. And Rick Emmett has a song called Saved by Love, Saved by Understanding. Okay, so we want to increase our understanding. Like Miss, what's her name, Winton said, reviewing Libby's work, she found him to be an engaging and lively companion in this journey of increased self-knowledge. Saved by increased self-knowledge. At least the quotes give you some pause, and you can have more options of it. And maybe, who knows, maybe we can self-correct with knowledge. Like maybe there's enough self-awareness to stop our repetition compulsion. Maybe that's maybe it is possible. Who knows? I don't know. But the idea of having the quotes is that if you do experience something and you remember the quote, at least you feel you know what's going on a bit. You calm down a bit like that. Oh, that's why I'm doing that. Oh, that's what's happening. Like I feel a little relief just reading these 8 pages, 31 to 8. So that's why I highly recommend reviewing that. Hard to find articles. Look, anyways, I'll see you in the next video. May the psychoanalytic force be with you. Wait a sec. Let me try something. Let me try the horizontal. One sec. Let's try this again. Hang on a second. Let's try this way. That doesn't work. Oh, hang on.